Dr. Lindsay Pollock, and I'm the Provost and Director of the College of Education at Sarasota University. Sarasota is a completely online program. Our offices are located in Sarasota University, or pardon me, Sarasota University is located in Sarasota, Florida, the offices. However, because we are a completely online program, our students study all around the world, and our professors are also located everywhere you go in the Montessori circle, all around the globe. Sarasota offers a bachelor's completion program in Montessori education, 2 master's programs, one in Montessori education and the other Montessori leadership. And I'm excited to announce that we will be launching our Montessori doctoral program July 1st. If you're interested, please reach out to me, lindsay.pollock@Sarasota University, or send us an email at info@Sarasota University. And I'll be dropping that information in the chat as well. Tonight we have a real treat. We have the magnificent, the wonderful, the amazing Lorna Cohen coming to us this evening. It is my honor to introduce you tonight, Lorna. Lorna is someone who I so highly regard and feel fortunate to call her a friend. Lorna, oh, let me see. My apologies, folks. Lorna and I met through the Center for Guided Montessori Studies, and it was my true joy to be able to visit her school, where she is the Director of Instruction and Curriculum at Countryside Montessori Charter School. Lorna is a Cohort 5 graduate of the AMS Emerging Leaders Fellow and founder of Florida Montessori Partnerships. So again, Lorna, kudos to you for all of your amazing work. And thank you for being here tonight. We're looking forward to hearing about your advocacy journey and all of the great things you're doing for Montessori schools in Florida and beyond.
Thank you, Lindsay. Well, we start with a bang because my slides are not showing me the speaker's part. So I have all my notes somewhere, but they're not showing. So I know that you're all amazing people that know how all the slideshow works. But when I do presenters, it doesn't have my notes. But we work very hard, so I'll be happy to continue. Do you see my screen or not?
Yes,
Oh.
we see your screen. It says advocacy. It's your first slide.
Okay, wonderful. So if I go slideshow, does that work?
Yes, it looks great.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you so much for coming to this advocacy journey. When Lindsay and Heather asked me if I would be willing to present for the Sarasota University, it was just one of those moments where you stop and you say, wow, like this is really one of those things that we have worked really hard for. It is all about hard work. It's all about getting to continue that communication and really thinking this is the path that we wanted to continue, right? So the first questions that come about is, can I go down this pathway? Can I really make a change? Can I really continue and do the work that everybody thinks that I can do? Am I able to do that work? Do I have what it takes to do that work? And it seems like this crazy long pathway and this crazy journey. And at the beginning, it doesn't seem that it's something that just one person goes about to do. It is with the work that happens on a day-to-day that we say, okay, are we going to do this work? Are we going to continue in this path? So it started with so many questions, right? We start saying, what are the things that we really want to work with? What are the things that we are doing on a day-to-day basis? I want to, as we're doing these questions and we do these presentations, many of you are going to have questions on your own. And I rather really have, rather than somebody just presenting and talking, have a conversation. So as we are going, if you have questions or if you have a thought that you want to share, and please do interrupt, please do put in the chat. Lindsay will tell us if there's something in the chat, and really work on having those conversations rather than just a presentation. I am a lot more about the talking rather than just doing. And that's one of those things that really work really well for me in terms of going to people and talking to them and having an opportunity to learn every day, having questions and coming with curiosity. That's one of the things that Maria said. She said that children come with curiosity. They come with all these questions. That's why they don't have kind of like, they say things sometimes that are like, oh, that's not something we should say. But the reality is that they come with that love and that intrinsic motivation to just learn more and know more. So for me, the journey really started with many, many, many questions and working on the journey that I had and trying to figure out those questions as I went along. So for the Sarasota University video, I often receive that question. It says, have you ever wondered how is that some people, when they talk, they capture the attention of all of those around them? How is it that when they're saying things, it just often comes across like it just comes naturally to them? How they seem so happy to be sharing and they make it look so easy. So this is a question that people have asked me many, many times. And to be very honest with you, at the very beginning of my career, many times I didn't really have an answer. My answer was usually like, oh, this is just something I love. Or, oh, it wasn't hard work to do this. A lot of times it was like, how am I going to convince people? How are we going to go to audience and convince people that we know what we're talking about, that we see it every day in the classroom, or we see it in the state, or we see it in whatever area that we're trying to work with the parents? And to be honest, I think that that's the first mistake we make. The first mistake is that we feel we have to go and convince someone of what we're working, of what we're talking about. And when we try to convince other people and we're not really just doing it and putting the work, then that's when things don't go right. It's when it doesn't go well, because you're trying to shift what you are doing to trying to figure out what they want you to say, what they want you to do. So the number one thing is stop doing that. And I came into a moment in my career where I was like, I am no longer willing to do that. My beliefs and what I know that Montessori needs to be in my community at this moment is X, Y, or Z. So the first thing I stopped doing was trying to find out what is it that people wanted to learn. And what I started doing was to do the work. I figured that if I did the work and I show the work that we were doing, the rest will happen little by little. Now, what I'm sharing with you today, yes, absolutely, is what is working and what I have come to understand. But it didn't really happen that quickly. It really didn't happen like that. So I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. I came to the States from Puerto Rico. I had my bachelor's degree in art, and I came to USF, to the University of South Florida, to complete my master's degree in art and printing. And in that process, I needed to get a job. I needed to get a college job, and I couldn't find anything in the university related to the arts. And so I got in 1992 a job at a little Montessori private school, and I was teaching art and Spanish and Italian at that moment. And it was like aligning. And a lot of people say this, but I just couldn't believe the work that those children were doing, the art lessons that I was giving. And this was a school that it was only primary, it was only early childhood education, all the way from 3 to, there was a baby's room, but there was mostly 3 to 6 years old. And that is the moment that I started, I immediately decided that I wanted to do the training. I was very lucky that the director of the school saw that in me. I can't say that I wanted to be a teacher. My mother always said that I was going to be a teacher, and I always said, absolutely, it's not going to happen, right? Our cosmic has that for us, but we don't believe it in the moment. From there, I worked for 12 years in the private environment. I have to say that in 1994, it was the year that I learned the most. After doing my training, the owner of our school purchased a school in an area that it wasn't like the best area, where children had not had the background or the education that we were used to. And I had a classroom with huge classroom. I have 55 students with 4 assistants. And these children, like, Friday, we're in a regular traditional daycare, and Monday they came to a Montessori school. Like, we spent the whole weekend, we transformed the classrooms. It was a nightmare, right? But in looking back, I learned so much. The only way to manage was literally like moving children through the areas, sensorial, practical, live, like 10 at a time, and managing this craziness until little by little, the school developed and all of that. That is where I feel that I really learned the hardest lessons. I really learned how to really convince a parent to give us a chance, how to have that faith and that trust in those children, how to really believe in the Montessori education. From there on, I had my children. I, really knew that I wanted an opportunity for my children not to be only in like the private setting. We were in an area where there was a lot of professional, a lot of privileged family, which was wonderful. But I really, and especially coming from an island where there was such a difference, cultural beginnings, I really wanted my children to be in a school that it was more diverse and had all kinds of different backgrounds of people. And so in 2002, I decided to join the team here at Countryside Montessori. It was the first charter school in our area. And then it just happened that when I came to tour the school for my son, who at that time was going to first grade, there was no openings. But the teacher that was working there had just years prior trained under one of my classrooms during her training. So very quickly, they were like, oh, Miss Lorna, you have to come, you have to help. So that was really, again, that second moment where I feel that cosmic nature came to say, this is where you need to be. So from 2002, I had many years. Our principal was, the founders of the school were Montessori trained, but our principal was just a regular human resource person. So a lot of the times when they were going to do things, they will say, hey, Miss Lorna, how do we do this? She was wonderful into really believing in the Montessori, but it was definitely a journey. I did my elementary training. I then completed a lot of things that we were required to do for the public sector. And in that time, it was very special because they offer a lot of opportunities for teachers to grow. And I remember my very first ever visit from the district. They came to the school, And they asked us for the rubrics and the names and all the things that we were teaching and the standards and this and that. And I just pull out my albums. I had no idea what they were asking me. I had no idea what exactly they were looking for. And that was the moment where I'm like, okay, I need to learn also what the public setting looks like. I need to learn other things. So making that shift as a Montessori teacher and saying, okay, I need to get myself known in the public system and organizing. I took every single training they offer us. I took every single class, everything that you can imagine. I did my public school training. I did my ESE certification. I did my gifted certification. I did my readings endorsements. I did all of that. Not in any way ever because I wanted to take care of the Montessori. But I knew and I understood then that in order to make a change in the public system, I needed to be able to speak their language. I needed to be able to really work into that. And so we did all that. Later on, I'll come back and explain to you how that helped. But in those years from 2012 to 2020, we, moved the school, we grew, we went from being a school of just 4 classrooms with like about 90 students to like a 350 students today, all the way to 8th grade. We added the middle school. I had different roles as a coordinator level, elementary, and then COVID happened. COVID was also a pitiful, very, very moment because we were lost. Everything that we knew as Montessori, it was gone. Everything, the hands-on, everything, I don't have to tell anybody, you all know, you all been through it, was something that really changed. From 2020, when that happened, I can say that was really like my aha moment. That was really the moment where a lot of the teachers from the prior schools that I have worked on and for the community of teachers that through the years I have helped, one of our teachers created a Google Classroom in which we put all the equipment. It was just wonderful how the community engaged. People from many different schools started contacting me and say, hey, Lorna, what are they doing in your school? How are we doing this? And it was the only time since I had started in 92 that I remember that no one cared. This is your area of your school, this is my school, this is, everybody has always been so about these are my children, or be very careful about not taking the business, right? And it was the first time that I saw everybody work in community. It was the first time that I was able to be on a Zoom call with people from different schools that probably have never talked to each other because the competition or whatever that was. So that is when I decided that it was my opportunity to reach out to all of them, to kind of connect with all of them. And then from that moment on in 2022, I decided to apply for the Montessori Emerging Leaders Fellowship. And that's where the real advocate work comes from, which I'll explain to you a little bit. Till today, where I am, the organizer, a co-founder of FMP, the Florida Montessori Partnerships, and the director of curriculum and instruction here at Countryside Montessori Charter School. And that also have very different hats, very different works that I have had to do to go there. But the reality is that brings to those words that I spoke in the video. The reality is that I continue to see that through all these years, I really often was considered a person blunt. I was often considered a person flexible, but very opinionated. I always was willing to do work with people, but I always make sure they knew when I didn't agree or when I felt that it was in the best interest of children, or when I felt that, oh, well, we're doing that because it's easy, but not necessarily because that's what we should do, right? And so I'm not trying to make it sound like it was easy. It wasn't. And there were many moments where I would say in a team of 6 or 7, I was the only person that says, well, I don't agree, but I'm a team player and I will do what the team wants to do. But I want to make sure everybody knows I don't agree. And sometimes that rubbed people the wrong way, but everybody knew that at least I was very transparent. I've always been very vocal about things. So later on in life, it was good. So I'll explain that. So the first word that I used was passion. And passion is strong and barely controllable emotion. And that definitely describes a lot about me. I'm one of those people that you always see me happy. I've made a point to understand that life is very short and we have to do things with passion. And it's something that I believe shows the work that you do. This picture in the middle, it's a picture that it was a very, very scary moment. And it's so funny because Dr. Pollock is in that picture. And I think it was like maybe the second time that I have ever spoken to her. But this was after my presentation of my capstone project. And I received this email and it says, we would like you to come to this lunch. And this is all of the board of the American Montessori Society and all of the different clubs. And I was lucky that my plane was leaving late that day, but I walked in, I had no idea. I even contact other people from ELV and say, hey, are you going to the lunch or not lunch? And they're like, I don't know what you're talking. I don't know what lunch. So this picture reminds me of that crazy day that I knew that somehow I did something good, but I promise you at that picture, I still had no idea what was happening. The lady next to me, to my left, is Vaiju from the Montessori Public Policy Initiative. And she was also one of the only people I knew in that room. I knew everybody in the room, but it's kind of like everybody knows the president of the United States, right? But you don't think you're going to be in a room with them. And so I knew who they were, but I wouldn't even speak to any of them. And it was Vaiju who grabbed me by the hand and said, Lorna, these are just people. Remember, they're just people. It's okay. Come follow me. And she gently and so amazingly introduced me to some people. It's like, this is Lorna. And being in a room like that. So that was really pivotal moment where things really change and my perspective changed. But I knew that somehow that passion was there. And all of these people that you see in these pictures are people that have passion, that have really a love for work, that have said to me, I'll be there. And all of these are different meanings that later on came about that really developed just with that passion, right? And so it is something that you don't think about. It's something you do. It's something that comes with. The other thing is those core values. So fundamental beliefs and principles that guide a person to actions, decisions, and behaviors. So in trying to look back for this presentation and through the journey as an emergent leader, there was a moment in 2014 that I feel it really changed everything. And it is a competition. It's the first picture. It was a competition. And I was just doing my everyday work when a student from our school, from the upper level classroom came and said, Ms. Lorna, I really have this idea and I want to participate in this competition, but I need a teacher coach and I don't have anybody. And I'm like, okay, this is not a student that had been in my classroom, but I knew the student, I knew the parents, and his brother was in my classroom. And he said, I have this idea of this huge project. And so for those of you that don't know, the Explora Vision, it is a science competition that is done every year. It is an international competition, and it is run by the owners of Toshiba Corporation. And it has to be a invention that the children from kindergarten all the way to high school, and some universities participate. It have to be an invention that changes something in the world. And the caveat is that it has to be able to be produced in 5 years. So it's not something like a child says, I want to do a house in the moon and it's going to be this beautiful thing. It's nothing like that. It's a research project. And so I said, of course, I'm going to be your coach teacher. I am not particularly I don't consider myself to be like a science. Remember, I'm an artist, like that's the other side of my brain. So I'm not particularly math science teacher, but I'm like, I will help you. One of the things is that you have to create a model. And so he's like, I think, Miss Lorna, you can help me create the model. I'm like, well, I hope that's all I have to help you with, because in all honesty, the other parts I'm not the best to do. But just being there, I cannot tell you, like those afternoons, we had to meet once a week. You have to log everything. It's very, very specific. So it was a lot of work. But these children have this incredible passion. It was 3 students that wanted to be there, and having those parents trust in me, trust that I was there, that I was role modeling, it really spoke to me volumes about just doing things with passion and having your actions speak for itself, not really what you say, or just really doing it. So that was the first time. So these students wonderfully won the national competition for their grade level. And so this was in the year where Barack Obama was our president. So the very next year, then we get invited to the science fairs at the White House. So we got the opportunity to go and present that. And just the fact that we were Montessori students standing in the White House, we were elated. I cannot tell you, just being there, it was completely like out of this world being called to do that. So we went to Washington twice. We went first to receive the national certifications and merits and all of that for the students. It was super excited because they show the picture of the kids in New York City, and it was just in the Toshiba Tron, like right there in Madison Square Garden. It was our picture, and it just said Montessori. Like that was my biggest thing. The second step was in 2000, moving to 2019. I had a group of parents that was very, very dedicated to Montessori. And they were those parents that think that kids can create a spaceship in first grade. They were very, very strong parents that year that I had in my elementary classroom. And I worked very hard for them to follow the child. I worked very hard for them to not push them. I worked very hard for them to not want books in the classroom. And for my complete surprise, there was this competition, or not competition. I don't even, to be honest, to this day, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's called the Champion Teacher for the charter schools organization. And so they nominate it is a prize or a award that only the students and parents can submit your name. Is they have to write letters, they have to do all these things. And so for my surprise, in 2019, I was awarded this. And it was the first Montessori teacher. So that was the second time that I was like, we can do this. We definitely, this is something we can definitely do, right? It is something that definitely others can do. What we need to do is just continue to do the work. And so having those core values and putting the actions is the second part that I feel that can be missing, can be just not there in our behaviors of our everyday work. That then moves obviously to making the decision to be an emergent leader and creating Florida Montessori Partnerships and presenting that as a capstone project which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a minute. And then to this year's Impact Medal for the American Montessori Society, which it again it was a complete surprise. It was something that makes you happy, but it makes you happy not because it's about you. It makes you happy because it's about the opportunity of the children in your community to be in a Montessori classroom, the more we talk about it. And so that has been really the core of my core values and those actions day to day. So hard work. There's no doubt that there is a lot of hard work on that. And I found this picture, and I love this picture because it is very evident that this woman is a very hardworking woman. But I love it because she is showing joy. Whatever job she has to do, she loves it. She's smiling, she's dirty, but she's really loving it. And I feel that that represents a lot of the work that we do. But in reality, this is the work that our Montessori children show us every single day. Every single day they come and they come to do their hard work. Every single day they show up and they pour and they pour and they pour until they can do that. Every single day they come and they do those metal insets. Every single day they put their hard work. So if you see children in the garden, you see that they're completely taken by the earth. They're like in the dirt, they're in the work, and that's how our everyday work needs to be. In order for us to get to the advocacy part, our job is to protect that. Our job as the advocacy for Montessori is for them to really have the opportunity to do their work. So our advocacy work is really not for us. It's that passion, which is remember that love for that emotion and those core values, which is those actions to protect that they can do the work, to protect that they have a voice. So I just love, I think we all love when the children are concentrating. This is just our practical life, our food preparing in the kitchen, when they are immersed in that dirt and that hard work. It is hard. It's hard for them. This little toddler picking up, from the floor with a dustpan. That is the equivalent of us probably doing report cards or having to do evaluations or having to do things. If we see it in their eyes, it's as much as hard work for them to do those things that for us to prepare a whole day of work. So I definitely think that we need to honor that hard work on the work that we do every day. Another area then is the learning. How important is that 3 hours uninterrupted work cycle? Why do we advocate every day? And again, it is not an easy everyday work. I have teachers every day that might ask, can I interrupt for this? Or is it just 10 minutes? This and that. So again, it is our job to really, really focus in that philosophy and really put total concentration into protecting what is for them. What is the spirit that we are creating for the children? What is the advocacy work that we're really doing? So I know that everybody in this colloquium has a connection to Montessori in a way that if I have to ask you, right, the passion within the Montessori that you have, right, the value that you see in it, we might have many different ways, but at the end of the day, the one thing that might be the same is that it's all for the children. I really doubt that there will be somebody that says that is for something else. At the end of the day, it's always for all the children. So this year, something that has been very important is in our school, when we say each whole child, we talked about that advocacy word. How do we are present for every single kid? All of these adults that you see here have been committed to that. We have teachers that have, in one way or another, committed to a field trip, or committed to their music, or committed to building a program, committed to travel. Like we have the opportunity to send a team from here to China and do some work. But at the end of the day, is that commitment to be the advocates that we want to be for the students, be the people that we have to support. On the opening this year of the American Montessori Society, Munir Chifti, the director, said that our commitment has to be one that really allows the child to have the whole spirit, allow the child, that Maria really did not wanted us to be stagnant, that she wanted us to have the innovation, right? And I really have thought of that a lot, because often we confuse that we have to create new things and change everything and be innovative without having those core values, or without changing that. And I'm a believer that once you find the core values, and once you find what is the passion that you're going to have and how you're going to put in place that hard work, that the rest happens on its own. The rest is like, when I put that note there, not because it's about me and Miss Lorna, awesome teacher, but because I know every single people that is in here, and all of those people that you see in these pictures, they all have many little papers like that, little notes, little papers, little posters, little cards that says, I love this from you, I love that from you. And that is the advocacy work. When you get those little notes, you have done that advocacy work. You might not know about it, but when a child recognizes in you that you have given them the opportunity to do something that maybe another teacher didn't do, another adult, you are really supporting each whole child. You are allowing them to do all that they wanted to do. So that brings us to the advocacy, the public support or recommendations on a particular cause and policy. It can be something you're starting. It could be what you're helping a child do. It could be an action of something that you want to do. Advocacy came to me through my actions. I promise you that I have not even thought of that word or what it meant. It was something that happened through the work. So in 2022, that advocacy work in just one phone call. It had just happened that I have decided that, remember when we talked about all those schools that during the COVID got together and could not, have talked before. So there was nobody have written how to create an organization. Nobody have written how to do that. And so my mentor, Claudia Mann, said, well, just start calling people and asking questions. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to call Munir Shifty, who was at that moment, obviously my emergent leader was through AMS. And I'm like, okay, well, let me call the big person and start asking questions. And did I believe he was going to answer me? I thought I'll get an email or so. And I got this note like, okay, let's meet in Zoom. And from there, it was like just one person after the other questions. And after like the first group of people, the second group of people, when I will call, it was like, oh, you are that person. Oh, I know who you are. Oh, you're the person starting this and starting that. So it was wonderful. So then we created the proposal. We had, Kathy Lee, she was at that time the director of, well, she's still the director of the International Montessori Council, but she had started the Montessori Alliance in Florida, and Sheila Linville was also part of that. So I met with both of them. I gave them the proposal of changing. Mr. Michael Picon was the principal, is still the head of school at our school. And so I went to him and I said, well, I want to do all of these things. And he's like, sure, if you want to do that and you feel that the school can support on that. So obviously, we don't work in a vacuum. Maria Montessori made very clear that we don't work in a place where it's just one person. We have to work with our community. We have to work with the people that we are around. And so that is how Florida Montessori Partnerships was born. It was a lot of work. It was a whole year of calling people, making notes, doing things, all of those things. Absolutely. It was a lot of work. But again, was it hard work? Yes. Was it joy? Absolutely. The more work I had, then I decided to do leadership training and all of those things. And very often, like I said at the beginning, people will be like, aren't you tired? Like, aren't you want to stop certain things? When will be enough? And every single time I could answer, well, it'll be enough when all the children have Montessori, right? Or it'll be enough when in Florida our teachers are certified, or it'll be enough when people recognize that every child should have this opportunity. So I really appreciate all of your time and effort. I cannot say enough of Sarasota University being the first Montessori university that is really, really supporting this work, that is really, really helping us to continue. I would really love if you have questions or share or have a time to sharing. I know it's a lot of information when you're talking, but it will really mean a lot if we can have like a complete conversation, or if anybody have a question of something that I have not particularly answer, uh, about the journey, or any questions about how can they do it. We all think that we cannot do it, right? We all think, oh wow, like this seems so far away. And I can promise you, coming from a family of 6 in the middle of Puerto Rico, having no background in any of this, that there's no limits, that you can just have that passion and doing it.
That's right. Lorna, I just love the fact that throughout your presentation, you center the children and your passion for service. It's so inspiring. And it seems like just yesterday, you and I were sitting at your dining room table filling out those forms, remember? And
Yes,
now
and
look,
I didn't know what I
I
was doing.
mean,
I still don't know sometimes.
and I mean, you're doing such fantastic things, you and your team. And, I want to also applaud Michael, your head of school, for being there and being supportive. And I think, you've illustrated how interconnected we all are, right? How we all help one another and work together. And when we do, all these magical things happen for the greater good.
I think that when we don't plan it is when it works the best, because your focus is not in what this person think or what if I do that. And something also that I have learned to practice through time is it's okay to make those mistakes. And Lindsay can
Sure.
tell you, when I call her, I'm like, how do I EIN? What does that mean? Or how do I do this or that? So just being able to be vulnerable and say, I don't know how to do this. I feel I can do it, but I don't know the process, and have
Sure,
people
yeah.
to back you up.
Finding people around us who are willing to take those steps and be part of the journey. It is magic, really. And I mean that word in a, just that in the spirit of how the universe brings everything together for us so often when we're open to that,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Is there anyone in the audience who has a question or a comment? I see we've got some comments in the chat. Lorna, uh, Teresa says, thank you so much. It was great. Monique, this was truly amazing. Monica says, this has been inspiring. Mandy says, Lorna, your passion and dedication is inspiring. We're lucky to have you in the Montessori community and proud to work together. Absolutely. Joelle, thanks, Lorna. You are amazing.
Joelle is actually, I want you to know, Joelle, it was a ELF emergent leader with me, and we have continued that communication. And Joelle now is president of also the New Jersey or what or Pittsburgh, I don't know, one of the associations. So
Fantastic.
awesome.
That's great. Margarita says, thanks for sharing, really inspiring. Jill, your passions shine through. Thank you. And that is so true. You are always so passionate and positive and optimistic. You are an inspiration, Lorna.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. I see some other comments coming through in the chat. Lynn says her comment is that she's currently working in a Title I school, and her experience has shown that every child she's working with would be better off in a Montessori program. She thanks you.
And bring it to them. Bring Montessori to them. Even if you're in that program, you can start with little things. Not, it doesn't have to be huge.
That's right. Mary Lee says, Lorna, I am blessed. The universe brought me to CMCS community. You're very inspiring and positive. And Karthika says, thank you for the honest talk that inspires everyone. Marie, thank you for being here tonight, Marie. Marie Conti says, thank you, Lorna. You're an inspiration to the Montessori community.
And Marie is one of those people also that even though she works nonstop and she is in charge of all regional commissioners and everything, if I send Marie a question or an email, she is right there. So thank you for helping me do the work I do, Marie.
Absolutely. Thank you, Marie, for all your years of service to the Montessori community as well.
Absolutely.
Courtney Dial, very inspiring, Lorna. Thank you for sharing your story. Happy to have you in our community. Fantastic. Well, again, Lorna, thank you. And thank you to our Montessori community in attendance this evening. Please remember, if you'd like a certificate of attendance for participating this evening, please scan the QR code to receive your certificate of attendance. I would like to remind everyone that the Black Montessori Education Fund is hosting its inaugural conference this summer in the Washington, D.C. area at Howard University. Sarasota will have a vendor table there, and we're just reminding everyone that it's a great opportunity to participate and expand opportunities in the field of social work. Everyone is welcome at the Black Montessori Conference. We will be centering Montessorians of the global majority in the conference spaces. And so it's really a fabulous time to participate in this program and to hear Maati Wofford speak. She'll be a keynote, and so many phenomenal presenters will be present at the conference. And again, Sarasota will be there as an exhibitor. And we just hope to see you there. So be sure to register. Early bird registration has been extended to April 30th. So go to their website, blackmontessori.org/BMC25 to register today. And with that, I wish you a good evening. Thank you again for being here tonight. And again, thank you to our fabulous guest speaker tonight, Lorna Cohen. You are always an inspiration. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
See
you
you
for having
next
me.
month. Hope to see you right back here at the Sarasota Colloquium. Thanks.